Hiya, I'm Simone Radley from England and Nails, and in this video I'm going to be doing two different acrylic ombres. So I'm going to do one which is the classic pink and white baby boomer, and then I'm going to do another one which is a hybrid, and for that I'm going to use one of the new colours from the Spellbound Eyelash collection. So it's going to be a bit glittery as well. So I've just got some couch roll, which is what I'm going to wipe my brush on, so I'm going to have that to the side. I have got my dappen dish, so I like to use the heavy sort of ceramic one. Ink sell these dishes and they have a cork that you can put in the top. You can't really see there, but oh, that's better. In there you'll see I've not got much liquid in there at all. I never ever fill this dish up to the top because your acrylic liquid will get contaminated really easily. So I only decant, I would say enough for the set, but I don't even decant enough for a set when I'm doing them on clients. I only decant maybe for one hand, especially if I'm going to do something with like a glitter acrylic. I'll decant enough to do that, and then I'll clean it out and I'll have another lot for the rest of the nails. I'm going to be using Alaska Acrylink powder, which is clear. I'm also going to use Montreal, which is white. There is another white as well that planned, but I really like Montreal. And then colour powders, there's so many colour powders to choose from. But I've got Milan. So Milan is a fairly dark cover pink. It's one of my favourites. If I wasn't using this one, I'd probably go to Sydney. They tend to be my two sort of go-to colours. But as I say, there's loads of colour pink powders to choose from. So I'm just going to open my pots. I'm going to open my clear one. When they run out, I tend to tilt the pot up on the lid when they're getting a bit low. And I've got my two fit tips that I'm going to work on. And on one of them, like I said in the intro, I'm going to do like a hybrid ombre using a glitter. So I'm going to use, I don't want to focus, I-197, which is from the new Spellbound collection, and it's called Pixie Dust. I love this one. So I'm going to use that for one of our ombres as well, just so we've got something a bit different. And the brush that I'm going to be using is the Acrylink A10. This is my brush of choice, definitely. It's a 10, but it's not a massive 10. So to be honest, I would say that this brush is good pretty much for everybody, really. Don't be scared of it because it says 10. It's not a massive one. That's the thing with brushes, it can be really hard to understand sizing, because every company, you'll get a brush and they're a different size, but these 10s are definitely not massive. So I'm going to start with our classic pink and white boomer. So I am just getting my brush in the liquid. I'm going to pick up my white first. I don't want my white to be really thick because obviously we need to cap this because we don't want to file our blend away. So I'm just placing it sort of, I don't know, just under halfway down the nail. So I'm doing obviously the free edge first. I'm just patting it into place. I'm going to spin my brush round and just feather the top of that bead so it's just feathered up a bit, so it's not such a harsh white line. And now I'm just going to pat and pull the white down to the free edge. I always find doing something like this is so hard just on like a tip like this. It's so much harder than actually on a person. So if you are practicing these at home, I think if you can do it on a tip like this, you will have no problem doing it on a client. And obviously we are working on like a display tip or a fit tip, whatever you're going to work on, so don't worry about it coming off over the edge, because we're going to file it like we normally would anyway. And I've got a tiny little gap in my free edge, so I'm just going to pick up the tiniest bit of white on the end of my brush and I'm just going to add it in there. When you add in any products, make sure that it's not too wet and make sure you don't brush it away from where you've added it. So I've just added that in and I'm not brushing it away from the bit that I need it, I'm just sort of brushing it out around it to feather it in. So now we've got our white tip and it's quite faded out in this section. And now we're going to come in and put our pink down. So I'm going to pick up a small, I was going to say small to medium, but yeah, probably a small to medium bead. And I'm going to blot the back of my brush to dry it out, to take the liquid out, because that will intensify the colour. I'm just going to place it over where we've got our white line. I'm pushing and patting it across and then I'm going to blend the front of the bead out. And obviously we're going to add more to this, so don't worry if you're not happy with your blend at this point. We are going to add more. And actually at this edge I'm just going to add a little bit more already. Again, blend it out nicely with your brush. Now I'm going to come in with what would be my cuticle bead at the top. So it's going to be a fairly large bead. Again, I was just blending the back out slightly to intensify the colour. Push and pat it to each side and then just blend it out. So we're just sort of feathering it over the bead that we've got in front. Keep blending all the time. With an ombre, it's like blend, 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 blend. Now if I were doing it on a client, that's not too bad. I just want a little bit more in the apex. So I'm going to pick up a small bead and again I'm going to bleed the back out of the bead onto my towel that I'm using. And I'm just adding it into that stress area and blending it out. That's better. And then just check that you're happy with your blend that you've got here. I'm quite happy with that. I'm just gonna maybe add a tiny little bead here. Blend it up towards the back and then blend it down at the front. And then this area you need to cap. So you can either cap in clear, which is what I've got out, which is Alaska, or you can cap it in like a clear pink. So Ink do one called Talin, which is a really nice sort of clear pink, and you can cap in that as well. Some people prefer to cap in a clear pink because they say it sort of helps, if you like, to mask the blend. But I actually prefer to cap in clear because I find sometimes that rather than masking your blend a little bit and helping you out, that it can like totally get rid of your ombre, if you know what I mean. Sometimes the pink in the clear pink is too intense and it just makes your blend disappear, so you've got to be careful when you use those. So yeah, I just like to use clear, but try both and see obviously what you prefer. So now that I've capped it in clear, I'm happy with that. If I was doing it, it's hard to see doing it on a tip like this. You don't really get a true reflection of what it looks like on a client. But if I was doing it on a client, I would have done my white, as I did, really thin. Then this bit here with my cover pink really thin, which blends out. And then this cuticle bead would have been sort of thicker and higher to build the apex. So I would have just built that with the pink. And then this is the only section that I would cap, because it would be, you'd kind of have your apex here and then it would go down and be thin there. But yeah, that's how I do it. So I'm just going to let that dry. So while that's drying, we're going to do our other one. So I'm going to start with a really thin base layer of Milan. Or am I? No, I'm going to get Sydney out actually, I think, for this. Sydney is it's a bit lighter than Milan, a bit pinker. So I'm going to do a thin base layer of Sydney. And like I say, you do definitely want it thin, because we're going to then come in, we're going to add our glitter eyelash to make our ombre. So we've got to add that in, then we've got to cap it. So you want your base nice and thin. So I'm just push, pat, pull all the way down to the free edge. Nudge it up where you want it. So you can see how thin it is, because you can see through it. I'm going to add a tiny bit to the free edge. And then I'm going to come in and do my bead that would be at the cuticle. Again, I'm keeping it really thin, so this is not where I'd be looking to sort of start building my apex or anything like that. It's just purely like a little thin base layer. So now we've got our base layer in. What I'm going to do is come along with my eyelash. So I'm going to get my eyelash, and I think I want my glitter at the tip, at the free edge. So I'm going to do 2 thin coats of this. So I'm painting it probably a third of the way up. And then what I'm going to do is, I have got a brush, an old Cat 2 brush that's gone a bit fluffy. I've used it for these polishes, so it's a bit glittery. And I'm just going to lightly fade the back of that up a bit. Just a bit, it doesn't need a lot. And then I'm going to pop that into cure for 60 seconds. Now that's cured, I'm just going to repeat that process again, just to intensify this lovely glitter colour. And turn it round again. If I was doing this on a client, I would either just get my brush and go up like that, or could get them to turn their hand around, whichever is best for you. And then pop that into cure again for 60 seconds. Oh! Oh man! I dropped it, but it's alright, it survived. So now that has come out of the lamp, I'm going to get a lint-free wipe. And I'm just going to wipe over that eyelash with some of the green cleaner, just so it's got no sticky layer on it. because if it has, then it can make your acrylic sort of slip and slide when you come to put this next bit on. So just like we've done really with our first pink and white one, now I'm going to pick up a bead of Sydney again. I'm going to drain out the back of the bead slightly to bring the colour through, and then I'm going to pat it out from side to side and then feather the front over, and then I'm going to do my cuticle bead again with Sydney. Just going to bleed the back out a bit. Obviously it's hard going around a cuticle area when you've got no cuticle area because it's not on a person. But we'll do our best to imagine it. So this one is a bit more how it would normally look if I was doing it on a client. So if you look from the side, you've got this sort of built up here as your apex, and then where you've got your glitter it goes thinner because that's obviously where we're going to cap. So I'm going to cap that section now in my clear Alaska. And then we're going to move on to file them. Not that there's much filing to do. So I'm going to use a 180 signature file. I've already used this one on myself, but obviously it doesn't matter because it's just on a tip. So I'm going to start with filing our traditional baby boomer. I'm not obviously following a proper filing routine or the filing that I would normally do like on a client, because it is totally not the same, is it, just on the tip? The joys of working on tips, it keeps popping off. Trying to file like acrylic on a tip is a nightmare. But we're getting there, we're nearly done it. I'm just buffing this one to buff out the scratch mark so we can top coat it and it'll look all nice and shiny. Because at the moment, like that, it doesn't really look much, does it? But, so I'm just going to clean it with some green cleaner. That's what I always clean the dust off my acrylic and that with. And then I'm going to top coat these. Oh, dust everywhere. So I'm going to top coat our pink and white one first. And if I was doing on a client, I would use the Ultimate No Wipe top coat. So that is what I'm going to use on here. And then you can see the lovely pink and white ombre we've got. I'm going to pop that into cure for 60 seconds. And now I'm just going to grab the glitter one and top coat that as well. And now you can really see that glitter, which looks amazing. So I'm going to put that in as well. So that is our two ombre nails top coated and out of the lamp. And I love them. I do love an ombre, I've got to say. And obviously you can do ombres with gel polish, which no doubt I will do in another video. But I just love an acrylic ombre. So that is my two different acrylic ombres, and as I was saying before, obviously you can do an ombre with gel polish, which I probably will cover in another video, but for me it's never as flawless as a really nice acrylic ombre. So that's why I just like to use acrylic for my ombres. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new videos, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!